Welcome back to another episode of Credentialed. I'm Jillian Mele. Today, we are talking about probably one of the most feared things in life, starting over. It can be about many things, but if you're anything like me, it's about a whole new career, and that'll be the focus today. The last few years, many people have chosen to start over and have taken the entrepreneurial route. Later in the episode, I will tell you about an article that I recently read that gave some perspective on how popular entrepreneurship really is these days. It's actually quite fascinating. I'm 16 months out of leaving a career in journalism that I worked in for almost 20 years and was so fortunate to reach the highest level of national news anchor. I cherish that time. In these last 16 months, though, I have surfed more waves than Kate Bosworth in Blue Crush. And if you don't get the reference, watch the movie and you're welcome. But for real, it has been a wild ride. In this episode, I will walk you through what I've gone through to get to where I am today, in the hopes that it can help some of you watching or listening. I do want to preface this by saying these are my experiences and the things that I have gone through. Everyone is different. Maybe your journey was or will be a smoother ride, or maybe my experience will help you. If I help one person by sharing my experiences, that's good enough for me. That's what this whole podcast is all about. I think being vulnerable, being open and honest is really important. So, starting here, when I left my career, I'd spent a lot of time thinking about it. I knew that I was unhappy. I knew I wasn't in a place that was a good fit for me, and I wasn't surrounded by the right people. When I say that I felt the discomfort, I mean I felt it in my core. It got to a point where I could no longer ignore the feeling. It was screaming to me from the inside out. So while, yes, I had thought about making this seismic shift in life and had planned my budget and things like that, there were so many things that I didn't plan because honestly, I just kind of mentally couldn't even get that far. I just wanted to get out and feel free. So when I left, it was time to sink or swim. I had no time to process what had just happened. That, yes, I actually took the risk and bet on myself and walked away. I always wanted to be one of those people, but I never thought I'd have the guts or the courage to do it. But I did. I also had no time, though, to take a break or catch my breath. I had to jump right into making a new name for myself, creating a new identity, and teaching people to see me in a different light. Maybe you're one of them. I had to learn how to see myself in a different light. And I've heard this from many people who have started over. When you leave something that you've known for so long, you go through a bit of an identity crisis. You question everything. At least I did. Everything changes. Your routine, some of the people you're around, even the content of some of the conversations you have. Because think about it. So many of our conversations revolve around work. And if that changes, so do the conversations and who you're having them with. For a period of time in the beginning, I'll be honest, I felt a bit isolated on an island of my own, sort of just trying to figure things out. But I also felt empowered. I was so proud of myself and excited to see what I could do on my own. But I couldn't sit back and bask in that thought because the clock was ticking. And oh, by the way, so was my bank account. So I did what anyone would do, which is dive right in. At first, I knew a bit of a path I wanted to go down, but here's the important part. I knew what I did not want to do. And I encourage anyone considering a similar path to know that as well. Knowing what you don't want to do is just as important as knowing what you do want to do. And I also knew that I had a journey ahead to really fine tune what the business would look like. But in the beginning, I was just trying to stay afloat and ride that wave. I would say that lasted for an initial few months. And then I woke up. I started to wake up to the fact that the comfortability of paychecks coming in each week was no longer a thing, that my spending habits had to drastically change, that my life had changed. It was my choice. And I knew that this was going to be my journey for a long time. Don't get me wrong. You think about all these things before you make the big move, but thinking about them and planning for them is still not the same as living them. At some point, at least for me, you kind of get smacked in the face like, oh crap, how will I do this? And honestly, I allowed myself to feel all of those things. I figured if I was going to look back at this big risk I took, I wanted to feel every bit of it, the good, the bad, the amazing, the scary. Truthfully, I still have some of those oh crap moments, but I have confidence in myself and in what I am doing that when those moments come, they quickly go. I had to put trust in my planning, in my abilities, in my goals, and in myself. I believe that while I had an important platform in journalism, that I'm helping more people now than I ever was. And that fuels me. So it was around this time, a few months in, that the reality set in that I needed to clearly define who I was and what I was going to do. Truthfully, this should have been done a while ago. And this is part of the preparation that I urge anyone who might be thinking of a new venture to do. I did it on the fly. I was defining things as I was going. And while it probably, actually definitely, created more work for me, I'm okay with that because I can sit here now and tell you things that I wish someone had told me. So, now steeped in reality, I became a bit overwhelmed with the thought of not having a solid strategy. And let me tell you with firsthand experience, strategizing your business is crucial. This was something else that I was doing on the fly, and it became exhausting. On the other hand, though, the flip side to that coin is that while, yes, strategy and having that plan is important, there is something to be said for just starting. Okay, maybe it's not perfect. And in fact, maybe it's a bit messy. But the first step is always to begin because look, we can find an excuse not to do something. We can probably find dozens in a day if we actually think about it. But that makes it easy to wake up in a year having not started at all. You can make excuse after excuse, or you can be the person who wakes up in a year and says, I did that. I do, though, throw some caution out in using preparedness as an excuse for not starting. Okay, let's pause for a second here because I want to make clear that sometimes we also need to give ourselves credit for the things that we are handling. At the time, I left a career, a major career. It was a huge move, a huge transition. I was still in school in an MBA program and was learning how to start a business from scratch and how to make it successful. None of those are small tasks. So please remember to give yourself credit for doing the best you can under sometimes demanding and stressful circumstances, because I know I am not the only one out there juggling a million things. I know you are too. And give yourself credit if you have clarity earlier in the process than me. You know, it's funny. Most people told me that when you start something new, it takes about a year to really settle in. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, sure. But like clockwork, don't you know? About a year into it, I woke up one day and had this epiphany and knew exactly what I had to do. I will give you a forewarning. The next 30 or 60 seconds or so is kind of a shameless plug here, but I think the point is important. The point is important. After a year of coaching executives for presentation skills and after a year of mentoring college students on professional development, which by the way, I'm still doing and I love doing, I saw a need though for soft skills coaching. It was like a light flashing in front of my eyes. I saw the need for things to be better taught, like networking and interview preparedness, resume and cover letter building, overall confidence building, how to dress for success, telling your story and telling your story in these scenarios. The list goes on. I saw this huge gap between my generation and older and the younger generation. And I knew I could do something about it. And better yet, I knew that I could create an offering that was affordable and that could reach as many people as possible. And that's how my business Skill Studio was born. Skill Studio is a website where you can go and access various online courses. The first course to launch is on the professional soft skills that I mentioned for anyone of any age in the market for a job in the networking space or who just wants to brush up on some professional soft skills. The next course will be public speaking and presentation coaching, and that one will be wrapped up soon, so keep an eye out for it. Okay, shameless plug over and out. The point of me telling you this is that clarity is so important. It is everything. Knowing what you want to do, who you want to help, how you can do it, and how to get the message out is what it's all about. I hope this resonates with some of you because I believe that passion is one of the greatest forces of actually getting things accomplished. Passion fuels us. It energizes us. It makes us excited to start the day knowing that we are making a difference. Passion brings out creativity and inspires others around us. I found my passion, and in doing so, I found exactly what I want to do. I want to help people build their skills, build their confidence, shape and tell their story, and be the best version of themselves. I want to motivate and inspire. And I want as many people as possible to hear this because I want you to know that you can keep going, keep pushing, and keep striving for more. Sometimes all we need is a little confidence and a little push. So if you're considering a change, I would encourage you to write down thoughts about who you're trying to help. What uniqueness do you have that can help with your target audience? What are your specific talents and areas of expertise? What do you know more about than other people? And how can that bring value to them? Knowing these things can help with your messaging down the road, and I think they're really important. And while finding your passion is great, it is truly only the beginning because then the real work begins. This is when you buckle up for the biggest and most exciting yet tedious wave, the one where you've peeled back the layers and you can launch yourself into places and things that you can't maybe even imagine yet, but also the part where you work harder than ever before. The cool thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have no idea what tomorrow will bring. The scary thing about being an entrepreneur is that you've no idea what tomorrow will bring. But the great thing about being an entrepreneur is that when you've made it this far, you have the confidence within to keep going despite what tomorrow will bring. There's an article that I recently read in the Harvard Business Review titled How the Pandemic Rebooted Entrepreneurship in the US. It says in October 2023, over 3.5 years after the pandemic's onset, Americans were still filing 59% more applications to start new businesses than they were before the pandemic. It goes on to say that in October of 2023, the IRS received 473,000 applications to start a new business. It's a lot. I get it. I think during that time, many people reevaluated their life. They took a closer look at things, maybe had more time to dedicate to being creative and pursuing or figuring out their passions. I know that a lot of people went back to school through online programs because I was one of them. So if you are an entrepreneur watching or listening to this, I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. One thing I've learned is that you have to lean on others who are going through or have gone through a similar journey. In other episodes, we will get into storytelling and how it helps promote your business. In my opinion, storytelling is not used nearly enough in the business world, and it is something that can be a difference maker. We will talk about marketing strategies, content creation, and ways to get your message seen and heard, among many other great topics. I will also introduce you to some great guests who are going through things as well, similar things. You'll meet my friend Marissa, who was a journalist and is now running her own business, specializing on getting people camera ready. Let's be honest, everyone needs to use video nowadays, and if you're not, then you're probably falling behind a little bit. You'll meet my friend Anne, who has made big decisions and changes in her life for the sake of her growing family. There's a lot of great insight, great people, and great stories coming your way. As I wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with this question. If you look deep inside yourself and really think about what it is that makes you happy, is there a way to do more of that? Maybe the answer isn't completely starting over, but maybe you can incorporate more of what you are passionate about into your life. As I said earlier, be the person who wakes up in a year and says, I did that. Thanks for being here for this episode. See you next time.